Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending where you're from. Thanks for being on today. I have enjoyed, if you're on, again, I've enjoyed being with you guys. If you're new to us, we have a lot of fun doing this. And over the course of this crisis that we've been having, we've probably, we're close to broaching 2,000 faces that we've been in front of virtually. So we love the ability to be in front of you and your teams and your clients, and we love the chance to talk about our product. And one of the most important things, and we're going to talk about today, is we're going to team up, and we have Laticrete has been a wonderful industry and allied partner to us, as the most beautiful installations are only as good as they stay on the wall. So when we talk about sustainability of stone and all the wonderful things that our stone is, the ability on our faux products to fight UV, to be non-porous, to remain beautiful on any installation, it's only as good as it stays on the wall. We can say a stone's going to look like our stone because of the ASTM testing, and it's going to look wonderful for years. But if it doesn't stay up there, if it pulls off, if there's problems in the installation, if there's efflorescence, if there's spotting because somebody didn't full cover it, all those things lead us to have a great partnership with Laticrete. And they in turn rely on us for square footages of sales and a segment of their business. So it's a wonderful relationship. We love to work with them. They're one of the best in class, and the reason is no different than the way we feel about our people. Their people are wonderful and passionate about what they do. Real quick, before I introduce Bob Duke from Laticrete, a couple of housekeeping things. Please mute your phone. If you have any questions, type them in the chat. We'll get to them as soon as possible and answer those. And if we can't answer them, if it requires a more in-depth conversation, we'll send you some information afterwards. And finally, stay tuned. You should be able to go up to the corner, or depending on what kind of device you are, and pin me or make me the spotlight speaker. And then Bob Duke, or Robert Duke, is my partner today, and you can pin and make him the spotlight guy too. I'm going to try to go back and forth between the two. So I've known Bob for probably 15 years. We used to work together, and we worked side by side on many projects. And moving forward, we were involved with Laticrete and medium bed mortars before there was actually a masonry veneer system. And having the foresight with Laticrete to understand that that is a market and segment that deserves warranty. Bob's going to talk about that, and it's just a wonderful story, a success story, and a paradigm shift in the industry that's only been anything but for the good. So with that said, let me find Bob in the picture. Where are you, Bob?
Right here.
Yeah, right there. Go ahead, Bob. You go ahead. Please feel free to talk, and I'm going to find your face here.
Well, welcome everybody, and want to thank you, Kevin and Realstone, for having me in today. Hopefully, we can get some understanding of the systems that we have to offer, and to keep your products adhered for a lifetime of installation. So with that being said, I think we'll start as far as what we are. MVIS Masonry Veneer Installation System. As Kevin alluded to, we started this about 11 years ago. We saw a need for the industry in the masonry side. Typically type S mortars were being used to adhere stones, and we were reached out to by one of the industry partners and started looking at that and how we could help. And that's what we are, and that's what we try to do, is make the best installation systems out there for veneer stones. For whatever type you have and whatever installation you have, we'll try to help get you the right materials for that. Laticrete in itself has been around 65 years of making things stick. So if you're not familiar with us, that's what we've been doing for 65 years. So we've been mainly in the tile industry, and now we're in the masonry industry. And I'm part of the ASTM committees for the C15. I'm part of the MVMA, which is the manufactured stone industry. And then I'm partners with the Natural Stone Institute. And then I work with a lot of the industry leaders around the United States and Canada, trying to make them aware of what we do for systems. So with that being said, why don't we get started, Kev?
Right on, Bob. Let me pull up the PowerPoint. I'm going to share my screen. If you're a first-time joiner with us, you're going to see a few slides that we talk about why Realstone. And Realstone Systems has been around for 15 years. We started as a ledger stone panel company. We make the finest ledger stone panels in the industry. They're not big box quality. Their dimensions are tight. And the result is stunning installations that look beautiful inside and outside. We have many products. In fact, the majority of our products are ASTM tested for freeze thaw, which means you can carry those installations inside, outside. They can be in wet areas, all those wonderful, difficult installation areas that need robust and high demands on product and high demands on installation systems. And that's why it's so important to have the proper installation methods specified. One of the things that we're so fortunate to work with Laticrete is they have so many products. They have stone products, they have tile products, they've got sealers. They really have a full bag of materials. And we are becoming just as diverse in our offerings. So whether it's large format stone, or it's subway tiles for the interior, or interior only products where we're aligned with designers, high-end designers that help design those, we're wanting to put together a package, a design solution that not only looks wonderful, but carries warranties, installs in the most effective labor conscious way, and allows you guys to really win. Our customer service is second to none. Through COVID, we've maintained the staff and the people that have kept things rolling. We get products from all over the world. We innovate with new, different products all the time, and we learn and grow very quickly as we understand the diversity of what's needed. Special orders are available too. Lots of quality products, and even down to our packaging is second to none. Here's just a quick shot of a lot of different things that we offer, but most importantly, here's some of our details and CADs and cladding on our stone. This is most what a lot of people know us as, but that's changing very quickly. Today, we're going to talk about those products that you saw on the previous screen. These are just colorways and examples that you can, from our catalog, that you can show your customers and select colorways and narrow choices down through SKUs. But let's get to our guest speaker, Bob Duke. Here's the first slide, and you can tell me to change and boss me around and tell me what you need, sir.
Okay. All right. So this is what we were talking about, MVIS, Masonry Veneer Installation System. MVIS is kind of the acronym for that. It's kind of been going around the industry and becoming a kind of like the Kleenex of the industry. So we'll go to the next one. This is a joint marketing piece that we put together with Realstone. It shows the products that we have available for doing anywhere from air barriers to waterproofing to crack isolation, different types of mortars for different types of installations and the situations you might be in might require that. And just let us know what you have, and we can help specify that or work with you to get you the right products for the job you got being installed. Okay, go ahead. And then here's some of the typical details. We show going over concrete, steel frame installations, standard lathe and scratch, but we do it with other products, higher end products that are more freeze-thaw resistant, more flexible, able to move a little bit, where the other products that are used in the industry aren't quite as flexible and freeze-thaw resistant. If there's details out there, we know that the industry is changing quite a bit with the introduction of the air barriers and continuous installation. We can help with any of those designs. Just let us know what you got, and we'll try to steer you to the right direction, or to an engineer to help make those if you don't have one in staff.
You touched on real quickly, and we've got everybody on the call, from designers to dealers, distributors that actually sell your products every single day, to people that just specify. You said flexible, and maybe to some of the people that just focus on what the design is. What does that mean? Flexible. It's concrete. It seems like concrete.
Well, I mean, even regular concrete's flexible to a point. I mean, we've all been on a bridge deck, going across the highway or an intersection, and if you ever get a big truck go beside you, you feel that concrete just kind of bouncing underneath you. It is flexible. When we add latexes and polymers to concrete, and that's what Laticrete basically is latex and concrete. That's where the name came from. It adds even more of those capabilities and more of those higher end polymers to keep those there. It surrounds a Portland crystal and actually allows it to move a little bit, be a little bit more flexible. So, and then there's different levels of that, and that might be depending on what job you got going on, it might require a higher end that has more of those polymers in it, even more flexible and more freeze-thaw resistance for installation around fountains or somewhere where it's going to be continually wet. You might want something with a little bit higher bond strength, or shear bond strength is really what we're looking at. We don't look for tensile so much, we look for shear. What is it going to take to shear it off the wall? So, and
if we were to dumb that down, it would be stickiness and the ability to remain sticky even after it's cured or dried, right?
Right, able to deform and come back to itself, almost like little. One of the things that somebody used to say is like little rubber bands that'll stretch and allow it to come back together and hold it onto that wall.
Yeah, it's fun. Go ahead.
And then adding the crack isolation and waterproof membranes in there to give it even more flexibility, to allow that to even more to move more in plane, to keep your stones and finishes on the wall.
A lot of people don't know that you guys invented thin set, and Mr. Rothberg, who started Laticrete, used to work for Uniroyal and actually came up with a rubber additive and used to pour that into concrete or cement or type S or type N to add some flexibility. And through the years, well, you can see what's happening.
It was a bucket and a bag that started the company.
Yeah. Right.
And really, it's just a little yellow bucket he went around with, showing people putting it in regular concrete what it would do, and then the thin sets came along later, and adding those to them. And now we don't even use the liquid bucket; we put dry polymers in there to make it more. It's easier for the installer, easier for the distributor, because there's just one product that you really have to put water.
It adds consistency.
Absolutely. It also kind of self-polices the job. Now, you don't have to worry about somebody running out of a bucket. It's all in a bag. Add water and go.
In your trust in your systems and your technology allows you guys to give comprehensive warranties that are second to none in the industry too. That's why one of the reasons why we love it so much. We say, hey, specify our stone and this system, and you get these wonderful warranties.
On the warranties itself, we have 15 and 25-year warranties. The wood frame and steel frame construction are the 15-year warranties. If it's over concrete or CMU, it jumps up to the 25. And the reason for that is we know that concrete and the CMU are a lot more stable, less deflection in those wall systems. So we know that those will perform even better than the steel frame. But we give the highest warranties out in the industry. Our warranties are labor and materials in and out. If our materials fail to perform as designed, then we replace labor and materials for that area, whatever's affected, to do that. In and out, both ways.
A good peace of mind.
Yeah. Takes a lot of that liability off the contractor, as long as he's doing, and that's what we're talking about today, is best practices, trying to do things the best way. Get them installed the right way, and you'll have a lifetime installation. It doesn't mean that our products are going to quit working at 15 and 25 years. They'll last a lifetime. We have installations that have been out there ever since, we started this. So feel good about them lasting a lifetime.
Well, and there's a relationship factor with the contractors that gives product manufacturers like ourselves peace of mind, knowing that you guys will show up on the job, you'll have a relationship with those contractors, and you guys will work through those job-specific installations that we're not good at, but you're experts at.
Absolutely. Any of those jobs, if you have a contractor that might not be as familiar with the products or very familiar, we'll meet you at the job site or pre-bid, pre-construction, mock-ups, wherever, even their facilities, to help them learn to make sure that they're using the products the right way, to where you're not going to have those issues down the road.
Yeah, good stuff.
All about training.
So Bob, you go ahead and critique this. I did this installation, and good or bad, you can run through it and talk about maybe an option or a different option or things that your knowledge and experience gives. And if you go, hey, Kevin, you screwed that one up, that's okay, because we're just here to learn.
Absolutely. So what we have here on this screen is kind of getting everything prepped and ready to roll. So what he has done here is put up a ledger, and a ledger is something that is going to support the work as we work up the building. There's different ways of installing. We have products that are, should we say, a little more sticky, thixotropic. They will hold a piece of stone from sliding. We can set two different ways, but most of these bigger panels and bigger pieces, you're not going to do that way. So you're going to start out with a ledger, and that ledger can be, right off of the ground, just a few inches, and start your pattern. Or if you have a multi-wall or story, then you can start at different places, and like this, you're standing up and you're starting the installation. The picture in the middle, some of the precautions, make sure we're removing those labels, right? And that's just a bond breaker in those areas. And then in the next one, he's making sure that that is true level on the ledger. And then he's got sponges up top. And that's just a reminder of what I would say to somebody is clean, sound substrate. Wipe everything down, even the cement backer board to the stone before you get started, because every job site's got dirt work going on. Depending on the situation, if there's a lot of rain, they might actually be splashing, dirt up on the wall. Or if it's a real dusty job site, it could actually start building up on that wall and cause basically a bond breaker. We're only as good as what we stick to, and we want to stick to clean and sound. So, just, it doesn't take a lot, especially with the smooth back stones. Just a quick wipe just to remove that a little bit of latence on the back of that little bit of dust that might accumulate, and then set it aside and do a bunch of them at once, and then start setting after that.
I've got a box over there, and when I talk about that box, I talk about the quality of the box and how your product arrives at the job site unscathed. It looks like the pictures. A lot of times if you went to McDonald's or a Big Mac and they hand it to you and you go, holy smokes, I don't feel like that's the poster. But the other thing about the box and the stone, you worked in the stone industry before you worked for Laticrete. We feel is the importance to mix lots and colorways and blend products, not just pull out of the box and put up on the wall. Just another important feature that we like to talk about.
Sure. So here it is, talking about, cleaning. There it is, wiping down the stone. So, Kevin, you're doing everything right here. The stickiness of the product itself, you can see how it is holding onto the trowel, and the trowel is actually stuck to the wall. That's what we mean by sticky, a little bit of thixotropic nature. It kind of, I don't know how you would really, it just kind of balls up together and it locks up really quick, where Type S mortar does the same thing, but it uses lime for that. Right? It uses lime. What the lime does is consume the water and locks that product up a little quicker, and it'll hold the stone up there. But one of the things with when you're doing that outside is it's sucking moisture both ways through the substrate, through the stone. It's pulling moisture out, and the more moisture we can keep around those Portland crystals as they are growing and doing what they do, they get stronger and stronger the more moisture we keep around it. So that's what makes our product so much superior to Type S mortars as well.
Is there a working time?
Oh, absolutely.
So how does that compare?
All right. So typically a Type S mortar will, we just do the 70 degrees, 50% humidity. Will last around an hour to an hour and a half, maybe, in a bucket, depending on wind, sun, and all that. Where our products can get up to 3 to 4 hours, depending on the product of bucket life, should we say. Now, either one of the products you have to worry about. Once you start spreading it on the wall, you want to make sure it stays tacky while you're adhering stone. So you only put up so much that you can work with. Now, ours will typically give you a few minutes longer on the wall than a Type S, because the Type S, the lime, again, is consuming so much water in that product.
Bob, I use a square notch trowel, but that doesn't mean that your products need a square notch trowel.
Yeah, correct. Sometimes it's easier to get production with the square notch trowel, and taking it from, doing each piece manually or, back buttering like a mason has done for years. You can still do that. And that's where it might be the product that you're using. You still want to, what we're showing here, the third picture over from the left, is skimming the back. And we want to do that on the back of that stone and skim it into that product. We can pile it onto the center of the stone if it's the smaller piece patterns that you have or the smaller pieces that you have. They're easier to handle, and you can pile it on the back. You're going to press that into the substrate. You're going to slide it about 1 inch to 1.5 inches and then back into place. And what that does is it smears it onto the back substrate. So it's kind of a reverse setting in a sense compared to a notch trowel, where as we're showing on the notch trowel, we're going to spread that onto the wall. We're going to get it burned into the substrate or smeared into the substrate, and then trowel out our ridges. And the reason why, you'll see people that'll trowel in all different directions, and there's a good reason why you don't want to do that. You want to trowel either all in the horizontal or vertical, depending on what you're setting. And the reason for that is it allows you to collapse the air out from behind that piece a lot easier.
Bob, a lot of our installers actually don't go horizontal with their the gauge portion of a square notch trowel. They go up and down.
Yeah, absolutely. And what that is what it does is when you're pressing the stone to the wall, and I'm going to try to put this where y'all can see it in the picture. When you're pressing it to the wall, right, and they run their ridges going vertical, they just slide horizontal without any up and down, just horizontal. And then the piece that goes on next goes right on top of that. Just set it right on top of that, press it, slide it, and then back into place. And what that does is it keeps the mortar from getting in between the stone pieces, helps keep you a lot leveler, especially with your panels. And it collapses that air out that way, and it keeps your joints a lot cleaner if you work that way. So those smaller piece patterns and things like that are really square, like your panels, that works a lot better, I've found. Because if you're horizontal, it's harder to collapse that ridge. And then if I was going up and down, right, horizontally, I have to be real careful if I go too far up to collapse that ridge and then back into place. And I could end up with a little squeeze out in between the two stones, might throw me off a level, if that makes sense.
Completely. The other thing it can do is, even if you have a small piece of mortar or aggregate between there, on the lighter stones, that will create a space. And when you step back, it actually looks like someone may have took a Sharpie and drew a line there. And that has to be something that may need to be rectified. And it is something that has a potential to not make the punch list at the end, because the tolerances on our stones are so tight, they are made to go together. So if you can lay them on the ground and they fit tight, they're certainly go on the wall tight.
Right. And the other side of our mortars versus the Type S mortars is that you can actually pull that piece down, clean that area, and then stick it right back. And if you were doing that with Type S mortar, you basically have to scrape everything off the wall, everything off the back of the piece, and then start over fresh. So there's no way of really reusing that mortar again for that area. You just have to scrape it off and start over because it's already hydrated out so much. You're going to lose, even more of your shear bond strengths.
And you've kind of changed the way the industry thinks too. In the old days, all the masonry projects started at the top, right?
Sure. Yeah, because they drop mortar. Ours is being as sticky as it is, we don't drop as much mortar, so we can start at the bottom. The only difference in between the Type S and ours is you're going to clean as you go with ours to where you don't have to come back and clean it the next day. You can't touch their stuff. If you're setting with Type S mortar, if you get a little on the stone, you just leave it for later and come back and clean it. Well, you don't want to do that with ours because ours, having the bond strengths and just the strengths that we have, they'll stick to the stone. You basically probably remove a little bit of that stone on the outside, cleaning it next day. That's how strong we really are as far as
no extra charge for that
clean as you
design
go.
feature.
Huh?
No extra charge for that design feature, right?
Yeah. No. You're getting it all done at one time. I mean, if you were doing this with Type S and tried to clean it at that point, if you disturb the stone one little bit, you just lost all your bond strength. With ours, it's not going to affect it. You can sit there and rub on it, and it's not going to break the bond.
That on the wall cost and that cleaning and all those things that Bob just talked about, and there's many more things there. When our product is never the cheapest. If you sell our stone, it's never the cheapest, but there's a reason for that. And if someone says, hey, we're going to value engineer you out, I immediately go to the spec and I say, hey, can you tell me what the installation specification is? And if there's lath built in there, or if there's not a masonry veneer system built in there. Even sometimes rain screen versus their waterproof membrane barriers can save cost, time, and labor. So that on-the-wall cost is something that this really helps that whole product presentation and installation really be a winner and come in very competitive and even better with the warranties.
Sure. Okay.
You believe me, Bob?
Absolutely.
Yeah, all right.
There's a lot of cost savings in it. We probably save a third or more of the time, depending on the installation.
Yeah.
Just because we're not having to use the lathe and scratch. If you're using the lathe and scratch, that takes up a lot of your labor. And that adds a lot of costs to that, to where, going to the cement backer board like we've shown and being able to stick directly over concrete and CMU, those will save time. Especially on the concrete and CMU, when you can directly adhere to those, as long as they're clean and sound. Just removing the form releases typically is just a high power pressure washer going through the wall and cleaning it, removing the form releases and sticking directly to the stone without having to do a mechanical attachment. I mean, that's huge in labor savings. Might pick up days on a schedule to where if it's raining or too cold, you might be able to still put up cement backer board in those days and be able to do your finishes and everything a little quicker as well, saving time that way. There's a lot of time savings with the newer systems. It's just understanding those and how they really work. And, like we said earlier, that's what we're here to do, is try to help you understand it to where you can feel good about what you're specifying.
So if you're an architect or designer on this call and you feel that your number or you're one of our resellers that actually sells to the design community and you're trying to find that value, sometimes we sell all the value we can, but MSI or one of our competitors in big box store and it's everywhere and people don't get it right away. Well, there's an on-the-wall cost, and the whole system is a wonderful way to show value and add that to it, and maybe get a little closer to that budget number. So we love talking about that. Don't win them all, but it helps us win a whole bunch.
Right. All right.
So this is an installation over cement board, Bob. Okay. Interior. If I said it, hey Bob, what do you recommend?
What would I do here? Either the high bond, masonry veneer mortar would work. Even our new lightweight would work for this. The things that I would look at is, how does that wall look, behind that? If we're going up, interior, we don't need the waterproofing crack isolation as much because we don't have all the thermal movements and the wind loads and things like that of that nature. So put up your backer board, tape and bed the backer board, and start installing stone. One of the precautions you want to look out for is these systems don't go into the fireplaces. right? Those are high heat areas. Those require other products for that. So don't turn your corners. If you had corners going in or cut pieces going into the fireplace, don't do that. Typically, you're going to stop right at the return of the edge of the fireplace, and then maybe a bead of caulk that is similar to the stone color, or you could even do it in black to kind of blend those two together, allow for that little bit of movement in case there is some. It's not going to compress against that fireplace front. And then down at the bottom, allow for a little bit of movement between the floor. And then as far as the cabinets on the side, if you need a little caulk, put a little caulk in there to help that as well, or use some trim pieces.
And you guys offer both sanded and unsanded caulk and caulk that's rated for exterior as well.
Yes. Okay.
And that's part of your system.
Yeah, the Lattisil, and then we also have the acrylic caulks as well. So.
My takeaway on this picture, if you're new to us, is the tightness of the corners. We make a two-piece corner, which is phenomenal. You can do an outside corner, which you see here, and you can also do an inside corner. It doesn't require any grinding or cutting or fitting. And our panels are square, not Z. But what you see, this is an extremely light colored panel, but it's not brushed. I know where the panels are. I can find them, but what you really find is a flow. And because the tolerances are so tight, that it's important to understand we don't see the spaces where there might be mortar or inconsistencies in those panels. So a stunning installation. This happens to be in a suburb of Chicago, and it's a two-sided fireplace.
And this being a light color might be a good situation for our new lightweight because it is in white, and you can tint that. You can, if you needed to, you can make it a little bit darker, a little bit light, beige or whatever color you want to add to that. So the white might have been a good application for this.
Great point. Thanks, Bob. This happens to be a birch panel, another interior installation with no corners, over cement board. I had a 1/4-inch cement board in my install, but we always tell folks a 1/2-inch cement board so it doesn't pucker. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, the industry calls out for a 1/2-inch or more for walls. If you're doing countertops, say you're doing some countertops or you're doing a outdoor kitchen, you could use that on the flat surfaces because they're not going to warp on the wall. You don't have enough holding them to the wall. The structure is not thick enough for vertical application. So 1/2-inch, you're correct on that.
And you can actually see a space at the top and the bottom of the installation. So this installer, it looks like they left about an 1/8-inch gap on both the top and the bottom at the changes of planes. So
yeah, this one, again, they did the exact thing and cut it to the firebox. Probably left a little gap around that as well. You can't really see those small gaps when it's dark. A shadow is dark. So, and then simple, they just put trim down the sides. This installation, they just cut it to the edges and threw up the wood trim with their cabinets, and they were done. Made it simple and quick.
Another stone installation. This one happens to incorporate some hearthstones, which are not our hearthstones, but setting products on a hearth deck. Do you have to change material?
You probably would want to try to get something that's more of a medium bed for those hearthstones. So you'd probably switch over to the masonry veneer mortar or the lightweight for those installations. You could do the whole thing with either one of those. The reason why you want that is those hearthstones are almost 1 3/4 to 2 inches thick. Very heavy. And if you just use our high bond on that, it might settle and could drop a corner. And then you come back the next day and then, you have this little lip on your hearthstones. So a medium bed will support that weight a lot better. It won't break the surface tension, if you will, and droop a corner is easy.
So would we have to bring 2 different bags of mortar to the job site?
No, I mean, I would just go ahead and, if it required a medium bed, and just use the lightweight if you're worried about any high strengths. The lightweight is our newest product out on the market. And you hear me talk about it a little bit. It has some really great high shear bonds, almost the same as high bond, but it comes in white. And the reason why we came out with white is for the industry to help with the lighter colors and stuff. But like this one here, it is a little gray. You could throw a little color pack in it and make it gray. we make color packs. You can get those down the road and throw a couple of those bags in this and 10th of mortar, and you'll never know. The only thing I would say on this is, it looks like stone's in the firebox, but it's not. That is actually, probably some kind of fire brick that was installed.
Yeah, right.
Stop it and then put your screen up, and your screen will typically cover that. And then leave a little gap at the hearthstones to the piece below that to allow a little bit of movement in case there is some later. You don't want something to, pop those loose down the road.
My eyes are getting bad. That happens to be actually, those are our white birch limestone hearthstones. So those are pretty robust and beautiful. And they have
how much do those weigh a piece?
Depending on the stone, those are about 60 pounds a piece. Some of them are a little bit more.
Yeah, that's where we would need that medium bed mortar, and then just do the whole job with that. It'll work great. Interior, not a problem.
Hang on a second. My switch button. There we go. So this happens to be a special project that for the University of Illinois head football coach's office. That eye is 36 inches. We did it on a CNC machine. It comes out of our Alicio line and our Alicio 3D line. One of our biggest advantages over our competition is our ability and our relationships with our manufacturing facilities, our stone sources, and our quarries to come up with many different product profiles for each species or colorways of stone. And this one allowed us to do 3 different things. A split-face ledge stone, a 6x24 tile that was incorporated into the hearth, and a 36-inch eye that's on both sides of that fireplace for just a wonderful installation that we're proud to be a part of. And that one, once again, was over cement board. I guess my question, Bob, is we've got a huge 36-inch piece that weighed probably close to 80 or 90 pounds installed vertically. We have 6x24 tiles that really wouldn't qualify as thin veneer, but they probably weigh 5-6 pounds a piece. Do we have to get 3 different bags of mortar?
No. I mean, the only thing we'd have to look out for that kind of installation would be what's the weight per square foot. As long as it's under, for interior, for code, for the International Building Code, it's 20 pounds per foot for interior. As long as we're under that weight, we can do that. Not a problem.
Great.
If it goes over that, let's talk to the engineer or the architect on staff. We can always do variances. If code official is saying, no, this is too big, we can always show what we can do as a system. If it really needs to be, we can, maybe do, if that piece where the eye is, if it's that big and that heavy, maybe we do that independently and put movement joint all the way around it and then set to that. There's different ways we can accommodate. If we did this all directly adhered, I would recommend using our air and water barrier just to get a little bit more crack isolation, because the expensive pieces that we're putting on there, you don't want any movement to happen and have a little crack show through your finished material. We can cover up to about 1/8 of an inch of in-plane movement. So if that settled a little bit and put a little stress on the backer board and started a little crack, hairline crack would look ugly going through that eye. So I would recommend putting some crack isolation behind that system, and then put in the right movement joints, at the floor, the change of plane, at the little bit of surround that they have going around the bottom as well, just so it does not put any stress on that vertical going up, that leg.
We're going to get different rates of expansion and contraction with the firebox, with the metal, with the stone,
Absolutely.
with the eye. So
yeah, being that big and being CNC'd out, I would almost have just a small perimeter joint going around that with some matching silicone to allow for that movement to where it won't ever stress that eye and stay up. That way you have a long-lasting installation.
Yeah, an ounce of prevention.
Yep.
This happens to be our estate stone, which actually has a lot of spaces. It goes up, it's an 8x18 panel. It's underneath 15 pounds per square foot. Has corner pieces. I don't think there's any other different recommendation for a product like this, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No. I mean, inside corners, you know, where it's going to those different substrates and back is about the only thing you'd probably have to really worry about there. You know, the corners look like they have wraps, so, you know, you're good there. And then they cut to the firebox. So I don't see anything wrong with that installation. Was it over CMU or was this over backer board?
This one happened to be over CMU, which was stands for our folks. And I don't want to talk down to anybody, but we got all different levels of people here today. Yeah. But concrete masonry units or blocks.
Right. It's the ones that are 8x16, have typically 2 holes in them. They stack them together and they fill them. I would definitely do a couple of things if that was the case. I would, you know, if I was on the project before it went out to bid or before they installed it, I would just say flat the joints. Don't go back and concave them. Just put the block up and cut the joints clean to the face. That'll save some time. If it was done after the fact, you might have to come back and do a quick skim coat to level those out. And then I would recommend doing the crack isolation over the CMU. And the reason for that is if anybody's ever going to some jobs that have been up for a while of CMU, it's what I call tracer cracks. It's those cracks that'll follow the CMU, and that'll keep that from coming through those finished pieces as well.
We see that a lot of times on fixed corners in thin brick and some even natural stone and faux stone when we wrap those corners. That's why we talk about our 2-piece corner so much. And the advantages of it, because it breaks at the change of plane.
Sure.
Another estate stone example, this is in Las Vegas. This is the Chowa House, an award-winning installation on a zero impact greenhouse, and our stone and installation were a part of that. That happened to be a cement board wall. Actually, no, I think this was a lath installation. I didn't find out afterwards, but oh well, they did that. It was interesting. And that's kind of the default. And that narrative right there is so many people do the way things their grandpa did it and their father did it. And I even hear it still today with guys my age. They'll say, hey, we'll just put lath up and do that. And it's not the quickest way. It's not the cost on the wall way. And sometimes it can make it tough if the cost of the stone is higher. So understanding what's in the spec.
Maybe some of the good thing that they had going for that was interior. They're not going to get the moisture and the movement and things like that to rust out the metal lath. So. Yeah,
that's right. Hey, here's a rooftop in Chicago. Anything outside? This is just a block installation on these fire pits.
Sure. Outside, we really are more concerned about the water, so we want to use our air and water barrier over the CMU. So we might have to come in and do a quick skim, depending on how that CMU is put up. Put the air and water barrier over the entire substrate. That'll keep a lot of the moisture from going through, especially on the exterior. That's critical, or you should look at it a little bit more because it does a couple of things other than just the crack isolation. Any moisture that gets into that stone is not going to migrate back into the CMU, right, into the concrete. And that can actually be pulling out soluble salts if we didn't have that in there. So what that would turn into is maybe a little efflorescence down the road that we could eliminate. You know, all stones have a little bit in it, so you know it's not going to eliminate it completely. But if you can imagine how many soluble salts are in your CMU, and you know if this is poured in place or you know filled block, that's even more soluble salts that can be pulled out, and you know maybe you know give a little bit of bad whitening to this over time, and using the air and water barrier will help with the crack isolation, the little bit of movement that could happen, but I would use it mainly for the efflorescence that might
happen. I think we've all been there where the customers called us and said, hey, there's stuff on the front of your stone. What are you going to do about it?
Right. Yeah. And then you got to worry about how you clean it, right? Because we can't use acids on the stones, or you know, really caustic acids. It can damage the stone and even damage the installation system if they use them. So, you know, he brought up one of our other companies, and you know, there might be some cleaners out there that are less harmful to the system if you have that efflorescence.
We always say pH neutral product because just as it can be acidic, it could be alkaline, and no different than abrasive Republicans and abrasive Democrats. Hey, let's meet in the middle and be nice.
Right, right.
Sorry, there's my.
Yeah, you don't want to, use the wrong product because you don't want to, that's an expensive deal.
Outdoor living spaces is a huge growth segment for us and for our customers. This happens to be an outdoor fireplace box, and they actually used Indiana limestone on the caps and expanded it out a little bit. Anything to be aware of, or any recommendations here?
Again, if it depends on the box, if it was built out of the CMU, or some companies are actually making these prefab kits, right? And they're put together. Just after that's put together, come back with the air and water barrier. We'll have I didn't even mention that, we'll have another product that you might be able to use down the road that's not really just an air barrier. It'll be more of just for crack isolation and what I call bulk water management. I would flatten out all the surfaces, apply the air and water barrier, and start setting the stone. And it looks like they got some really big pieces going down the side, almost like a shingle. Those are going to be chemically, or shall we say not chemically anchored, but mechanically anchored. And we want to add movement joints to each one of those panels to where those aren't stressing our stone, and then we might not be stressing their stone as well. And then also around that little entry of the archway, and then back to your hearths, the hearth itself, leaving those little movement joints. Movement joints are so critical, especially the outside applications. The Natural Stone Institute refers everybody to the TCNA, which is the Tile Council of America for movement. When you start going outside, it's real critical. Or if you, even interior, if you had a big sunroom and you did a big area inside, the sun coming in, it changes the expansion rate of that material so drastic that it can pop it off the floor. It can make these panels move outside a little different to put enough pressure to where it could shear it off the wall. So, we always need to take in consideration those movement joints. And I believe on the horizontal, they recommend 8 to 10 foot in each direction. So, make sure if you're specifying these that you're, looking at the movement that can happen in these systems. Biggest thing you hear me talk about right now is, movement. Everything moves, moves differently than other materials. Any dissimilar product, this is a fireplace going up. It's kind of elevated. It's kind of cool though. Each of these levels, are separated. So you're going to have almost a break within itself, but how are those panels on top? Are those true stone panels like it is on bottom? Those need to have a movement joint going into them, or at least a gap that they understand that's not going to, that'll allow for that movement. It might not be filled or not, because again, it's a shadow, and this is a stacked stone type situation. So
this is another wonderful installation that we're proud to be part of. It's a rooftop deck bar in Chicago. They've actually taken our midnight sky and they've turned it vertically in some areas. They've run it horizontally in others. Parts of this installation that you can't see, they cut the tiles and they actually made a grid pattern or something that we remind you of a installation that is an installation that is like a parquet floor or a basketball floor. So it's a fireplace. It's a great place to get a cocktail. Another Chicago rooftop, and a growing industry for us as well, included in the outdoor, but very niche and specific. So wonderful for that. This happens to just be a bathroom installation over cement board. Right.
I would, this one would be, it depends on what I was doing in this installation, but I would use the waterproofing behind that, give you a little crack isolation, but you want to, make sure that moisture is not getting into that interior wall, especially around that tub and, where water can, splash out around the edges. This is where you really want to pay attention to those movement joints and using the Latisil, the silicone that goes into those joints to allow those to still move but still remain somewhat watertight to keep the majority of the water from getting through. Waterproof, that whole deal. I mean, this could be an issue down the road. You don't want to do it over sheetrock. That stuff will probably just fall apart. One of the questions that came up, Kev, I was sitting here, somebody was wanting to know about height restrictions.
Yeah, let me pull up the chats. I've neglected that.
Yeah, no, I just seen that one. So when we're talking about height, it depends on what we're doing. Interior, uh, over wood frame or steel frame construction, there's really not any limits on the interior. Exterior, it's 30 foot and 38 at the peaks on wood frame. On the residential side, when you're starting to talk about steel, the code's kind of silent. Doesn't talk a lot about steel and the heights, but in our warranties, we put in some kind of restrictions, should we say, and what they are is just notes to kind of draw your attention to it. When you start getting over 30 foot in the air on an exterior installation, there's a lot more to be considered. You have movement joints on floor to floor that you got to worry about. You have wind loads, depending on where you're building, where they're at. You might have wind loads that are, hitting that building. Is it in a seismic area? There's a lot of things to take into consideration. We can go higher than 30 foot. It's not a problem. We just want to have conversations to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing on the installation, that they're considering all the movement joints that might be needing to be placed within those. I can show you some pictures down the road if y'all want to reach out to me or Kevin and let us know, and we'll come in and we'll show you some issues with floor to floor movement, where they didn't consider, crack isolation membranes, where, they didn't use the right system, and it just fell apart. And these are multi-story, and you got a lot more stresses, especially when you start getting around that 50. I mean, the air pressure and the air is so much higher on the forces when you start getting over that 50 foot in air. But we're not scared of doing that. Again, it's just a conversation. We can do as high as you want to go. And we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page when it comes to movement and what can happen on a building.
I think we touched on the PSI and Type S and really earlier versus the important term is Shear Bond. What's the Shear Bond number of the product, right?
Yeah, so if you look at what code allows for Shear Bond, it's 50 PSI. Nobody really knows where that number started from, but 50 PSI is the baseline. Type S in a perfect world in a lab might get into the 100, 120 shear bond strength. But when you start doing them out in the field, you're going to lose a lot because of the application when you're doing it outside, the hydration. If they keep it wet through the whole hydration period, it will probably be a little bit higher PSI and get closer to that 100, where the products that we manufacture and make will be anywhere from 300 PSI to almost 500 PSI. And what I like to tell people is, if you look at 50 or 70 PSI or even 80 PSI, I wouldn't be able to hang off that wall. But when you start looking at it in a square foot, we go from hanging a large motorcycle to, with our products, going to a city bus. If you think of it that way, on that same square foot, using the higher end mortars, we can, capture a whole lot more weight without having any issues yanking on it. So.
And that, coupled with the stickiness or the ability to hold or the flexibility, is a winning combination.
Yeah, it's huge. The flexibility we talked earlier, adding the crack isolations and the air barriers to those systems can help increase the movement of the system. And then the right placement of movement joints.
And the other question we have from Liz Billies. Liz is a great partner and champion and specifies our products as well as brick and thin stone up and down the East Coast. She says if they're starting the stone in an unsupported location, a soffit, for example, do they need a temporary support for the panels? And if so, what would you suggest?
I would look at what size of panels we're doing and then look at the mortar that we're using. I wouldn't recommend the high bond for doing any kind of soffits in that area. It doesn't have the thixotropic nature that I've been discussing, the stickiness to hold it up there. You can butter it up, work it into place pretty well, and making sure you get the full coverage. And those smaller pieces will hang right up there. You start getting up to these bigger piece panels, it might be better just to do maybe a little brace on each side. Don't really try to use screws. We have a lot of contractors where they have used screws with washers to hold it up. Well, when they do that, it'll support it through the drying capabilities, But if they don't clean out those joints and you need it to be waterproof or an air barrier, when those screws come out, you need to get back in there and fill those holes where they done that. So you could do it that way. Not saying you can't, but you got to make sure you can still get back in there and put some more air barrier in those holes, or some silicone to fill those holes, or you just breached your air barrier and your waterproofing. The other way you could do it is get them, the material will hold it up there for a pretty good time, but you want to make sure it doesn't pull away on these real big pieces. And I'm talking, something, maybe the panel size, if you were doing a overhang with those panels that are pushing that 15 pounds, I would get them placed up there and then take a small piece of plywood and then use a 2x4 and against the floor and to the plywood and just let it sit there for a while. Once it sits for about 8 hours, it's good to go. You can pull the boards out and it's not going to move. It's pretty much set up. Come back the next day, it'll be fine, and you can start. If you needed to do any other work around there, they're pretty much stuck at that point.
We covered this earlier, 2 different types of stone. We've got a 12x24 on the wall, and we've got a 6x24. You could use 1 bag of mortar for this whole deal and save costs with both products. This
Absolutely.
Product, and I'm going to speed it all up a little bit. We're approaching the top of the hour, and if you guys have to go, I understand. Bob and my phone numbers are available to you. We'd love to talk to you about your projects, and Bob's always available. And these happen to be an antique wood panel or hive. They're made out of 90% marble dust, 10% resin. And while they're not the heaviest product on the market, they are for exteriors, and we're seeing a lot more of them. But Laticrete offers a couple different epoxy products that have been approved with this. One of them is a 310 spot bond. It doesn't give you full coverage, but has an incredible holding power. And the other one is their lat epoxy thin set, which is a lat epoxy, which we recommend on this for the best practice for installation. There it is, the hive. It's designed by Giovanni Barbieri. We can see that the wood, the realism. We use a natural hickory mold, and it gives realism to the product. Just second to none in the industry. The depth and the wormholes and the knot holes, and it's UV stable. It looks like wood. It wears like stone. Here it is in a hotel in Houston. Here it is in a bathroom because it's zero porosity. You could use a grout here. Is there any grout recommendation, Bob?
With that, I would assume maybe the Spectralock, or one of the permacolors. It depends on what the cleaning
Shower
aspect. I would definitely go with that product. I would do the Spectralock. I'd do a test to make sure it doesn't have any. I mean, you might know off the top of your head if we've had any darkening of the stone. Some of the epoxy resins might do that. We can find that out. That's easy to do.
We have not. We have not had that.
Maybe we need to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Send me some pieces. I'll get it tested.
Yeah,
that's the only thing we want to watch out for when we're doing the stones is if we did epoxies, sometimes it can darken. It's almost like putting an enhancer on it. And so we might want to do a test area if you're ever doing a stone and have to use some epoxies over it. Just, do a little test area before you get the whole thing done, because now you just got an enhanced wall that you might not have wanted.
Always.
The permacolor on the bathroom would have worked. And then the outside stuff, we have a premium pointing mortar and then a regular pointing mortar depending on the stone type.
Inside facades or commercial facades are a huge portion of our business. This is height. This is I'm not sure what the substrate is, but it could be one of 3 different things or 4 different things. But your products are really any TCNA approved substrate. They work wonderfully on, and right?
Yep.
Here's a good example of when you could use the Laticrete white mortars. So if you have anything or any spaces or inconsistencies, it'll help blend. Another large installation in a church. Any reason to use the anti-fracture membrane or waterproof membrane on this wall inside?
Yeah, definitely with all those windows coming in, the heat will definitely rise when that sun's hitting them. You're just going to create a pretty good amount of expansion. So definitely want to have the movement joints, and then also having the crack isolation membrane behind that will help making sure that will stay on the wall for the life of that building.
Yeah, those lobbies and large window installations, you really need to treat them with the movement joints like they're an outside space.
Yep, absolutely.
There's a residential stair climb, no different than what we've talked about before. Another one.
Looking.
Here is a hydrotherapy room at Michigan State. We've actually taken two stones and put them together in the specification. We've got a charcoal ledge stone on the outside and a honed limestone on the inside. One of the things that installers love about our products is how our glue holds our panels together. This illustrates that better than anything else. We water jetted those, shipped them, repackaged them, sent them to the job site. They unpackaged them, put them on the wall, and they still stayed in panel form after they underwent manipulation, after they were actually manufactured and changed from their 6x24 state, put together on the wall. A hydrotherapy room. It's not a steam room. Anything that we got to talk about?
Yeah, I'd still protect that wall, keep that moisture from going through it and having any issues. Some of the other things about our products is we have the microband in all of them, so it'll help with the the attacks of any microbials that could get into that wall. So it would help with that. I would definitely do that. Lattisil along the bottom to help maintain those seals.
Yeah.
And then just a few movement joints placed within that system, and you're good for the life of that installation as well. Making
Wonderful.
sure it's tied in as well with that floor system, whatever that is.
Right.
I think we talked about that when we weren't for sure what that floor system was, but
yeah, I don't know.
Make sure that water's going to be all around there. So if water got into that bottom seam, it could get underneath that wall. So you got to be concerned about that. So make sure you talk with your engineers and your builders and making sure they're keeping all those tight.
I don't know what they did underneath the stone. If they put a caulk or some sort of sealant down the bottom, but there is a cove base over the top. So protecting that and keeping water from getting in and wicking up, whether it's inside or outside, is so important. We've all seen those failures outside where that happens. This happens to be an outside installation in Cincinnati where we've actually the designer and the architect have coupled our honed limestone with an ACM installation system. There are joints in there. They made the spaces. It's a wonderful installation. When it was installed, there actually was some spots where, because it's a limestone, we were able to see where the mortar was, which we were able to head off very quickly with the installer and said, you need full coverage of mortar on the back of this. Which is an industry standard, and we're going to keep water from getting back there. So some products don't let you know they don't have full coverage. Limestone does in a lot of situations. Just a CMU sign. Would you just do a mortar? Could you just go, I'm just going to put mortar on there? Would you put the crack isolation membrane on this one?
I would do the crack isolation just to keep it looking better longer. Those soluble salts will start wicking.
Yeah. So that's something we don't think about. Well, I don't need crack isolation. It's less than 8 to 10 feet. It's so small, I'm not going to get that. It's bringing the salts out of the substrate with the water that's in that system. There's always going to be moisture in there, and it's going to move back and forth. So a great point about keeping the front of the stone aesthetically pleasing for years.
Yep.
Cement board, outside installation, crack isolation, medium bed mortar. Another one, this happened to be a pre-poured wall.
Just remove form releases. That's the biggest thing with those. Yeah,
right. And what do they use for form? They put the form in, they pour the concrete. What do they use for form releases, Bob?
It's kind of a waxy type substance. It's oil-based. They paint it typically onto the forms, roll it on, let it dry, and then, you know, if they're wood or metal forms, then they pour their concrete. And once that concrete sets up, then they pull them away. Well, those form releases will stay on the outside of that concrete. So those have to be removed. Typically, you know, like I said, if they do it the right way, pressure washer. If they get on it a little too quick, they didn't let those form releases dry onto the forms. They typically let it sit for a little while. It can embed itself into those a little bit more, or even if they were doing a tilt up, that's even where, you know, if they left puddles and it didn't quite dry, it'll go deeper into that concrete. Sometimes you might even have to either the new water blasting that's out there or grinding the walls in some areas, but always do a little test area before you get started. You'll know pretty quick.
Let me get this switched. And thanks to you that hung with us. More outside installations residentially. We've got an overhang or a cap at the top to keep the water management down. Water in has got to be water out. So more efflorescence and problems in installation can happen there too as well. We offer sills with drip edges. If it's stone solution, that's the cap. But Laticrete also offers some products that you would sill the top joint, like their exterior caulks that actually come in colors, but stand the test of time to keep water from directly rolling down into the installation. Another inside installation, our white birch honed. This happens to be in Michigan. It's our pewter, lots of columns, a residential house. We created this panel custom. The layout within the panel was designed custom for this specific house, and we can do that for you guys as well if you have a request. Another pre-poured wall like we talked about earlier. These are 24 by 24 tiles. They're less than 15 pounds per square foot, but they're about a ½ inch thick. Can we hang these with your stuff?
Oh, absolutely. I would, for these bigger pieces, you're always going to be using a ledger, starting from the bottom going up. So you would want to use the high bond. I was reading a question, about one of our other product lines, and it's on the tile side. So can 254, which is our platinum thin set, be used on these? Absolutely. It would depend on which distributor you're working with or is selling these products, on what product they would recommend for those. So we can handle it either for the Section 9 of your bid or the Section 4 of your bid. We have the products for doing that. And the reason why I would say use the high bond, it's not as sticky and not as what I was saying about the Thixotropic. It's a little more fluid. So when those bigger pieces, you need to try to, especially on the exterior, we need 100% coverage, or try to get 100% coverage. And with those bigger pieces, it's easier to move those and then maybe beat them with a rubber mallet to get the air out from behind it a little bit easier with the high bond mortar. And that's why we typically will recommend that for those larger piece sizes.
So we've got some water features. We're not going to talk about these today. We've got a whole section with pools, water features, which are specific and unique into their own and require some attention to certain details that we're really going to get into in the future, as well as the pool houses and the outdoor living spaces, whether it's submerged or it's even on the exteriors. So look forward to that. I'm just trying to tease you a little bit. We also have a line, stay tuned, of glass. This wonderful high-end glass mosaics that we're getting ready to launch this summer. We're so excited about it. It's a segment of our business that we really didn't have anything for, and what we've got is a commercially rated, the highest rated, customizable as well as stock glass, and we're going to be partnering with Laticrete on that for the best possible warranted installations. Those are expensive installations, and you want to get them right. Because the removal of glass from a pool, if it's wrong, is catastrophic. And this is the glass. It's from our manufacturer. We haven't worked with them yet, but we have an exclusive in North America. So we're so excited. And so stay tuned for that. And hopefully you're chomping at the bit. Some looks there. The customization really is incredible. And equally important, maybe more so, once again, is the installation. So, hey, thank you, Bob, today. Look, it was always fun to work with you when we were peers. I loved it, and it's been even more fun the last 10 years helping each other out. And I know that you're a gentleman and a brother, so thank you. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And you folks for joining us today. Once again, this is a pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you so much for your time. Let us know if you need anything, whether it's samples, whether it's details, whether it's questions. We're happy to do and honor whatever COVID procedures and policies that your locality and your business are following. We're more than happy to send you samples. Let us know. Hey, Shay Reckner at 2 o'clock is going to be doing Interiors on the Road on Instagram. She's presenting Marmos, our marbles, a new marble line that we're launching and designed by Aaron Adams, one of our designers that helps design a lot of our interior products. So look for Shay at 2 o'clock, Instagram, Interiors on the Road. Friday, we've got a CEU. It's a brand new one. We've done the last one for many, many weeks, and we've rolled a lot of people through it. We're going to do Stone 101, everything you need to know about rocks and stone and wonderful installations. So everything you need to know. That one's going to be about 5 days. So pack a lunch and we'll be fine. No, it'll be an hour. It'll be noon on Friday. And then we've got other presentations coming by. If your team needs them, a customization, or you need CEUs, let us know. We'd be happy to work with you. Bob, once again, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks my team that was on the call, and thank you all our customers and clients and people. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.